So before we begin reading this problem, let's remember how important it is to visualize what is going on sentence by sentence. So first, we're going to picture it mentally, and then we'll draw it out later. So let's get started. A cell phone company has a basic monthly plan of $40 plus 45 cents for any minute used over 700. Before receiving his statement, John saw he was charged a total of $48.10. Write and solve an equation to determine how many minutes he must have used during the month. Write an equation without decimals. Okay, so now that we have created the mental movie with the characters, scene, and actions, let's go ahead and draw it out. So we see that it has a basic monthly plan of $40 plus 45 cents for any minute used over 700. He then has a total of $48.10, and they want us to write and solve an equation. So that's the first thing. Well, actually, the first two things, one and two, because we need to write and solve the equation to determine how many minutes he must have used during the month. And then they want us to prefer to write an equation without decimals. Okay. So if a monthly plan is 40 cents plus 45 cents for any minute used over 700, I see that the standard cost of 40 is whatever is added to the amount that they have to pay for minutes. So back in the day before unlimited data, people were charged every minute that you sent a text or were on the phone. It was very frustrating picturing Miss Cardenas as a middle school student wanting to text her friends, but you had to pay for every single text, and that also included people that texted you. So it was very frustrating, and I'm so happy about unlimited data. But I want to just go ahead and label this monthly plan of $40, right? That's like the constant, the amount you have to pay no matter what. And then 45 cents for any minute is our unit rate, or what we've also been calling our constant rate of change, our CROC. So if I drew this in a tape diagram, right, I could show that part of the bill is 40. So this entire thing is our total bill. Total bill. And I know $40 of it is the amount for the monthly plan. Then I know that the rest of it is 45 cents for any minute, but I'm not sure how I can represent that. Well, I know it will change depending on the amount of minutes, so let's continue reading to the next sentence to see if we learn anything additional. Well, we see that John's total bill is $48.10. So let's add that the entire tape diagram equals this total. So the problem is telling us to write and solve an equation to determine how many minutes he must have used during the month. So what does it want us to solve for? It wants us to solve for the number of minutes. So what variable can I use to represent the missing minutes? Let's go ahead and use M. So M equals the minutes that we're trying to find. Okay, what other fact did we learn about the minutes? Well, every minute we have to pay 45 cents, so then I can write that as a multiplication problem. In other words, 0.45 m, because we would multiply any number of minutes by 45 cents to get our total. So now we have added that to our tape diagram. Well, now that we have our visual, let's go ahead and write an equation to then start solving. So we've used a lot of red. Let's use another color. So we know that this combined or added together would give us a total of $48.10. So our equation would look like this, or we could always put the variable first. That's kind of like capitalizing a letter in the beginning of a sentence. It's just how we grammatically write math equations with the variable in front. So how do we begin to solve our problem, and what do we think of when we are solving equations? Well, I remember that we use GEMDAS to solve these expressions, and then we need to work backwards to solve for these missing variables. So we're going to go in this direction. So first, I'm going to look for adding and subtracting. And I see that we are adding 40 on the left side of our equation. So then how can I take away the 40? So in order to take away 40 on both sides, we want to see how much money is being spent on the minutes only. So we're going to subtract 40 on both sides. We're left with 45 cents per minute equals $8.10 spent on those minutes. Okay, so now that we have done the adding and subtracting part of our order of operations, let's go ahead and look for multiplication and division. So I see 45 times M, which I know means it's 45 cents. That means 45 cents times the minutes. So we've already done the adding and subtracting part, and now we're moving on to the multiplying and dividing. So if there's multiplication in the problem, then I need to do the inverse or the opposite to isolate the variable. So we know the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide by the amount per minute on both sides of our equal sign. So let's go ahead, and I'm left with 1m, which I know I can just write as m. And now we have 0.45 divided by $8.10. Well, we know we never divide by decimals, so let's make this a whole number by moving it 2 times to the right, which means we have to move this over 2 times to the right and put in our seats. I know 45 goes into 81 one time. Oops. And then I'm going to borrow, and I'm left with 360. So let's go ahead and do our best guess. I know 45 times 2 is 90. And then I know 90 goes into 360 about 4 times. So I'm going to do my best guess of 8, and let's see what we get. Sure enough, we get 360. I know I could also do a top-bottom chart, but I'm trying to save up some time. So I know 1 minute is 18. Okay, or I'm sorry, not 1 minute. The M stands for 18 minutes. So we know this is the number of minutes that was charged on John's bill. So let's write that in a complete sentence. John was charged for 18 minutes on his bill. Okay, so let's just stamp. Remember that when reading the problem, we need to annotate important information. Then we'll draw out sentence by sentence showing what we know and what is missing, just like we did with our variable and our tape diagram. Once we have drawn out our problem, we can then write an equation to begin solving. We then know to use inverse operations to solve the equation. So instead of using GEMDOS, we would go backwards, using the inverse operations to solve the equation. Then, when we find the variable, we would write our answer in a complete sentence. So you're going to try one on your own.